Welcome to Truth, the podcast where we break free from societal programming, reclaim our identity, and return to our authentic self. I am your host, Juliet Ukpabio-Achibong, and this is my truth. I created this podcast because for the longest time, I felt quite trapped in what society told me I should be as a girl child, as a first daughter, and as an African. And as a person with multiple skills, gifts, and talents, these things made me feel like I had to fit into a particular kind of box. And of course, I couldn't fit into any box. So I was always the odd one out. I grew up quite afraid to challenge a lot of things. So at some point in my teenage years, I probably had the label of being a rebel, which was fine by me, to be honest. However, subsequently, it started to affect me personally because I started to think something was wrong with me. No matter how hard I tried to fit in, tick all the boxes, I always did feel very empty. And that restlessness continued. I had so many different expressions of, what the restlessness meant to me. So I kept trying to express it in different, dimensions. But the people around me who didn't know better felt I was a problem child because of this, and felt, I would always start a business and I won't finish it, or I always get involved in something and I didn't finish it. But they didn't realize that it was simply because of the restlessness that I felt inside, of the way that I was created. For the longest time, to be honest, I did feel that the way I was created was faulty. I felt that my creator perhaps made a mistake with me because I didn't seem to fit. I didn't seem to act like everybody else. Every other person had a straight line life. I didn't have a straight line. I didn't want to do what other people were doing. I had insights. I had very distinctive views from a very young age. I didn't want to do the courses other people did. I didn't want to go to uni and do medicine like every other person did. I just wanted to do something. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I had very clear views of what I really wanted my life to look like, or rather what I was led towards. But I didn't have the support that I required at the time. And so I just expressed myself the most jaga way that I could. Pardon me for my listeners who are non-Nigerian. Jaga is just a way of saying, the most chaotic way, the most chaotic way that I could. So I went along with that, really. Like I said, eventually these things begin to affect you in a funny way, mentally. They begin to affect your self-esteem. They begin to affect the way that you relate to people. Some way, somehow, you become sensitive to criticism. You become sensitive to how you take corrections, or to how you respond to people. Even in relationships with other people, with people of the opposite sex, they have a very big influence on that, because you're trying to conform, because you're trying to not have the label as a bad person, you tend to squeeze yourself into situations that you would most likely not. I'll give you a typical example. I got engaged to someone because as much as I realized that this person was being nasty to me, and this person's attitude was very narcissistic, but because I wanted to just be a good wife, let it's so funny now that I think about it. I wanted to just have the name of being a good wife. I wanted to just let it not be that there's another problem I've gone and caused again. So I wanted to just be a good person. So I took it all in, everything that this person did. I took it all in. And trust me, I don't want to go in the details of it, because I'd like to keep that private, but I took everything all in because I didn't want to get into any more trouble. So I said, okay, maybe being a good wife would absorb me of that trouble, of that bad name. So I took everything in. And no, it didn't turn out well. This person almost took my life in the process. This person almost took my life because I was trying to be a good wife against all odds. And that ended. And I moved on to yet another one. Oh yeah. And this time around, I went for someone that was completely beneath me. In hindsight, this is someone that on a normal day we probably won't even be having a conversation. But hey, I said, they said, I like big men. I liked expensive things. That's what I was told all my life. Oh, I like big things. My eyes were too big. La, 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 la. So I said, okay, it was time to go for someone who was more of my level, so that I didn't like big things, maybe because I like big things. That's why I was getting into trouble. Big mistake. I called off the wedding 3 months to the date because I realized this person was going to use me. This person and their family were going to use me as a cash cow. And I think at that point, something snapped in me. I just said, you know what, man, whatever. I didn't care anymore what label I was given. It really didn't matter to me whether anyone liked me or not. It didn't matter to me if I was accepted or not. I just didn't care. I didn't care, to be honest. I said, well, the worst you say is I've come again. Now, that's okay. But I wasn't going to sacrifice my life. I think what happened was I had an epiphany. I had like a moment where someone played a TV screen of my life in 5 years. And when I saw what my life was going to be, I said, nah, absolutely not. So I called off that wedding and that was it, yes, I moved on from that. I was able to overcome that. It did take a lot of fire and brimstone for me to psychologically move from being able to accept being labeled. But I did. Yes, I did. I was labeled quite a lot, even by my immediate family members. I have been given a reputation, which at some point, honestly, it didn't matter anymore. And that's something that we need to do. You need to grow up to get to that point where it really doesn't matter anymore. As far as you're living your truth, as far as you're living your authentic self, nothing else really matters, to be honest. So yes, you would think that after overcoming these things, these were the major things and then the restlessness was going to go, but absolutely not. The next phase of things was, me feeling very disconnected from my source. And then I started to feel perhaps it was my location. So I packed my bags and I moved to a different country, hoping to find some level of peace. And as you can guess, I didn't find it. No, I didn't find it. I said, okay, perhaps I'm being careless. I'm being, maybe I move to a different country, start my life afresh, get a decent job, just follow through, earn a salary, earn a decent income, la 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 la. Those were all the things I told myself. Anyways, I packed my bags, moved to a different country, and then it was like I was going to run mad. No, I didn't have any peace and calm until I started to actually strip myself of all the labels, titles, and conformities society had placed on me. You see, what had happened was the real me, the soul of me, had been begging me, had been calling me, had been twigging at me to allow them live, allow them shine, allow the real me to shine. It kept saying to me, allow Ukpabio shine. But you see, because I felt, Ukpabio just was not accepted by people. You see, that childhood thing was still in my mind somewhere. I grew up where I was told, you talk too much. Oh, don't talk when other people are talking. Oh, must you always be the one? Must you always talk? You see, and I didn't realize that actually my biggest gift and my biggest skill and my biggest talent was my ability to talk. Do you see my point? But people who didn't understand that shamed me for that. At some point, they told me my voice was too loud. I've actually been to a doctor to ask the doctor to take out my voice because I thought there was something wrong with my voice. Oh, you're always all over, you're always taking over. My own siblings even said to me that I'm always taking over things. But that's the strength, that's the gift, that's the talent that I came to the world with. My dears, all of those things created a whole garment. And until I began to strip myself of all those things, strip myself of all those labels, strip myself of all those garments that I was wearing, I didn't see myself. The moment I began to strip myself of all those things, I started to have some level of peace. I started to connect with my soul. I started to understand spirituality from different dimensions. I grew up Christian, but I'm not going to tell you today that I am the textbook Christian. No. I understand spirituality from different religion, from different dimensions, particularly the traditional spirituality. I'm very big on Ifa worship. I'm very big on astrology because I have understood spirituality from those dimensions, from those dynamics. And I've understood the way the world works. I've understood the way the Creator created the world from these aspects. And until you get to that level of spirituality to understand that we are all one, these spiritualities, this practices of spiritualities actually teach you that. It's only the Christianity that teaches you that people are separate. No, people are not separate. Love is love. We are all one. Everyone is one. So back to the matter. Until I began to strip myself of all these things, I had no idea that I existed. And when I began to experience myself for who I was, when I began to live in my truth, in the truth of who I was, I began to experience peace. I began to experience strength. I began to experience understanding financial abundance, contentment. On this podcast, the reason why I've created this podcast is so that a lot of other people who actually, may be experiencing these same things and have not had a guide, because one thing I've come to understand is my role is a frontliner. And I realized that so many people may have been praying to say, look, my destiny helper should have no peace until they actually come to help me. So yes, I've had no peace until I've actually picked up this recorder to make this recording, to put out this message, to say, hey, come on, I'm here. Whatever is happening to you, whatever light needs to shine through you, I'm here. I'm here to help you hold the torch until you can see your path. And that's the idea behind this podcast, is to let other people experience truth for what it is. When you lose yourself, other people will begin to tell you who you are. People told me who I was until I decided to know myself for myself. I know many of you listening right now feel that same tension. The pull between survival and purpose, between keeping up appearances and answering your soul's call. And that's why truth was born, really. Because I believe it's time for us, especially those of us from cultures that have been programmed to shrink, to start telling our truth to ourselves and to the world. This is my invitation to you. If you are listening to this and something in you is nodding, saying yes to this message, then I invite you to stay with me on this journey. Every week, I would make a lot of effort to bring you raw stories, deep wisdom, practical tools to help you return to yourself. Thank you for listening. Until next time, my name is Juliette. Bye for now.